Sheila Gunn Reid for Rebel News. I'm here in Calgary, Alberta for the Conservative Party convention. This is the largest convention ever. Last night, leader Pierre Poilievre passed his leadership review with over 87% approval. And I just had a very interesting conversation with a delegate from Quebec. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm David de Repentigny. I'm from the riding of Chateauguay-Les Jardins-de-Napierville, former candidate and now president of the EDA of that riding.
And we were having an interesting conversation because I think Quebecers and Albertans have a lot in common, especially in our shared grievances with the federal government's control of what we do and say in our provinces. And I think if Albertans could set aside that animosity with our Quebec brothers and sisters, I think the federal government's in for a wild ride.
I would say it's a fair assessment. Traditionally, even historically, Quebec always had grievances with the federal, and I mean, we all know that part of the history. Quebec and Alberta, but Quebec originally brought a lot of forward thinking about rights and protection because we had to fight to protect our languages, our culture constantly. And that brought a certain dynamic in the federation or the confederation. It brought a certain dynamic where negotiation in order to being constructive was necessary. And actually that's what brought the unique flavor to Canada. And this is something I really like. But I feel that in the current event, we often have the perception that Alberta and Quebec sits on two opposite sides. But we have a lot in common. Mm-hmm. We both believe that people should be free. We both believe in the human rights. We both believe in constructing a future that makes sense for people. So yes, I think that whenever we feel that something impedes the advancement of our ideas, we both kind of become a little bit rebel, if I can say.
And I think, if you live in a province, you should be a supremacist about your province. I think I'm an Alberta supremacist, or at least a Western supremacist. I think this is the best place in the country. And I know a lot of Quebecers feel that way too, which is why they fight so hard against the federal government to protect that.
I think we can make a nuance about being supremacist about our country and just be very proud of what we accomplished so far. Mm-hmm. Because in my view, the term being a supremacist means that you're superior to the other. I'm very proud from my roots. I'm very proud for my ancestry. But even as myself as an individual, there are things at which I excel, which I'm better than other person. But there's a lot of things that I don't understand as much as other people. So I think that we should be proud of what we're strong at and bring it to the table to share.
Sure.
And that makes a difference. I'm still very proud and say hey, I'm better at this. Mm-hmm. But I recognize I need what you're better at. Right. And together, it makes us a better team. I often use the analogy of using a house. In a team, you need someone that's going to be the foundation. Someone's going to be the framing, the wall, and even some people will be the wallpaper. But if you're not, you don't have all these elements together, you don't have a house. I feel Canada is the same thing. Each provinces bring something to the table. We need to put aside what we think are our differences and focus on what we have in common. And for this, by unifying what we have in common, it's not just giving the federal a wild ride, which I like the analogy.
We should.
but I like the analogy. I believe we should challenge power, not just to challenge power, but you cannot become better when you're never challenged.
Right.
So even myself, I always surround myself when I have a team. I surround myself with people that are just going to disagree with me. I want people to disagree with me,
right? Because
my ideas cannot be strong if nobody's disagreeing with me. So I think it's the same thing with Canada. It's the same thing with the federal. It's not animosity to challenge the authority of the federal. It's a healthy things to do. This way we can revisit. Well, was that idea really great, or maybe I should go another way? And that can only happen if you're being challenged. So I think it's the same thing with the provinces, with the federal and everything. It's just that let's put our differences aside. Let's see what we have in common. And then when we deal with the federal, look, you said this, but we don't agree with it. So only then they can revisit their position and do something else.
Now I want to ask you about some, I think, preconceived notions that people outside of Quebec have about Quebecers. And in our conversation, you sort of corrected me and said, our government thinks that, but we don't. You know, we look at Quebec and we say, well, they're the reason that they want to grab our guns is because the province of Quebec supports, you know, Mark Carney now, his gun grab, or, you know, with this crackdown on religious speech that came out of the province of Quebec. But you rightly corrected me and said, that's our government, that's not us. The people care about those things.
Obviously, a government is a representation of the people. People vote for the government, but everybody that's been in a voting booth, or myself, before I get really engaged in politics, I remember going to the voting booth, and I wasn't saying like, oh, I really like this guy. I was mostly say, which one is the least
bad?
Yes, right? And I feel that a lot of people have expressed also that view when I was doing the campaign and I was going door to door. A lot of people have expressed that view. A government is a body that's elected not necessarily by the majority, because it's rarely the majority that go vote in itself, but the people that had interest in that vote, they're cast at that side. And yes, it's a democratic representation. Fine. But when a government advances, and this is why challenging is important, sometimes an idea is going to develop and it's going to go in one direction. And inside the party, and I think every party lives that reality, it may be hard sometimes to challenge. What I really love about this convention is that we challenge the ideas, and I find that very healthy. But I think that when we go to the government versus what people think, if you ask someone that's only listened to broad and general news, and that person never went outside of Quebec, he might feel a resentment towards Alberta because he doesn't understand why does Alberta wants to drill so much, right? But he's not aware of the broader context. And I'm sure if I go here in Alberta and I talk to someone that doesn't have a broader general context and I ask him about Quebec, he's going to have the same general views. Why does he want to grab my guns? And he's going to only focus on this. But there's a wide diversity of opinion about guns, even in Quebec. Myself, you heard me before, I defended the responsible gun owners. I have a lot of friends that are sportive shooters, and there's a huge community that owns firearm and that are very proficient and they love going to the shooting range or to go hunting. So that notion that we want to grab everyone's guns is also misguided. So this is why when interference come, we stop digging and really seeking the roots of it. Same thing with oil. I mean, a lot of people oppose to drilling, but they don't realize that oil is just not necessary for your car, but your computer won't run if we don't have those hydrocarbon components.
Or they don't consider where Quebec's oil is from. You know, their Quebec oil is largely imported from some of the less pleasant countries in the world, or it could be drilled in Alberta and shipped across the country, creating Canadian jobs. And I think that's not thought about a lot in other places in the country.
You're absolutely right. I've seen that myself, and often I found that current ideas are often like polarized. I know it's a term that a lot of people use, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper so people understand what I mean. Is that we see things that they're good or bad.
Yeah.
But I'm specialized in risk assessment. I have, it's a huge part of what I do. And in risk assessment, you never reach risk zero. So whenever you consider an element just by black or white, you made a mistake because that it's always in between. So it's same thing with environment, same thing with production, same thing with economics. So it's never like totally one side or totally the other side. So when we exploit resources from third world country, we forget that the pollution that we don't see over there is being caused over there.
Yeah.
We don't see here, it's caused over there. So it's important sometimes to rationalize and to really weigh the pros and cons before we go into, oh, this is good and this is bad. Have more pros and less cons, and this is how I feel we should approach any important ideas of our society right now. So same thing with oil. I mean, we used to have refineries.
Yes.
In Montreal, we had a lot of them. We had like 5 and 4 closed. And imagine if we had like a energy corridor in between the two, how much the country itself would grow around this. Now, pipeline is less risky to transport oil than vehicle.
Train, yeah.
Quebec should know about it because we saw what happened in Lac-Mégantic. So I'm just saying that sometimes we know it's damaging to the environment, but we need to weigh how much it costs to the environment and how much it costs to the people. Because we need both.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you how you've been received by Western conservatives. Do you feel at home here in Calgary?
I totally feel at home. First of all, people are very courteous, and they're also very curious, because I think there's not too many Quebecers that roam around here. And sometimes they're going to challenge their own preconceived ideas. So a lot of people ask me the similar question as you did, like, why you guys want to grab everyone's gun? And say, well, hold on. Right? This is right now the political current, but it doesn't mean that Quebecers go about their home and it's like, oh, yeah, this is it. So, no, I've been very well received, very well welcomed, and I really appreciate the mind openness that I found around here. But I would say it's the same mind openness that I found in BC when I went there, the same one that I found in Gaspé when I went there. So this is why it's always been alien to me that we focus on our differences between the provinces instead of focusing on what we have in common. Because, honestly, we have a lot to share.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rebel News is dedicated to covering the independence movement in the West in a way that you won't see in the mainstream media. We'll treat it fairly and we'll treat it with legitimacy. To see more and to support our journalism, please go to independencereports.com.